Welcome back, traveler of the quiet skies. You've drifted here again, through warmth, through mist, through the soft hum of unseen orbits. Tonight, the sleepy scientist invites you to wander into light. Not the burning kind, but the golden one, the light that belongs to Venus, second planet from the sun, sister to Earth in size, mirror in gravity, and yet utterly unlike us. Venus wears a veil, a shroud of clouds so thick, so luminous, that sunlight can only whisper through it. If you could look upon her from space, you would see not a sphere of rock, but a pearl, a glowing marble of white and gold, is spinning slowly, bathed in eternal dawn. No sharp lines, no edges, just radiance folded upon itself. Beneath that glowing atmosphere, the world turns the wrong way, backward, against the flow of almost everything else, where the other planets rise into day. Venus falls softly into night. Her rotation is slow. One day on Venus lasts longer than a year. If you stood there, you would see the sun crawl across the sky, pause, and drift in reverse. Light itself would seem to breathe. The air, though dense, would not feel heavy, only endless. A warm embrace of carbon and sulfur. Clouds tinted the color of old gold. The wind would hum above the plains, like the sound of waves rolling backward through time. Scientists call Venus a greenhouse, a furnace of runaway heat. But here, in this moment, we'll see her differently, not as ruin, but as memory, the echo of what a world can be when it chooses to hold the sun too close. The sleepy scientist's voice becomes a murmur, soft as mist sliding over glass. She is not the planet of destruction, but the planet of longing, forever in love with the light. So breathe with her, inhale the glow that wraps the horizon, exhale into the quiet pulse of cloud and flame. Tonight, we won't fear the heat, we'll drift through it, slowly, curiously, as if each shimmer of warmth were an old dream, returning to be understood. Now close your eyes, a little more, and imagine the golden sky above you, the sound of wind moving through sulfur rain, the planet turning beneath your feet, so slowly you could count your heartbeats between sunsets. Here begins our journey. 50 quiet revelations about Venus, each one softer than the last, each one carrying you deeper into the glowing hush between stars and sleep. Step outside at the edge of dusk, and you might meet her already. A single white flame above the horizon, bright enough to cast a faint shadow, bright enough to be mistaken for a plane, bright enough to be remembered even with your eyes closed. Venus is the brightest planet in our sky, outshining every star. Only the moon and the sun appear brighter. Her glow is not bravado, it's albedo. A world wrapped in brilliant cloud, she reflects most of the sunlight that touches her, returning it to us like a softened echo. Through a small telescope, she waxes and wanes in phases, like the moon, slender, crescent, half-lit, gibbous, pearl, because we see her from the side as she circles closer to the sun than we do. She is the morning star and the evening star, appearing low in the east before sunrise or low in the west after sunset, never climbing far because her orbit keeps her near the sun's line of fire. Sailors once steered by her. Poets named her for love. Yet, there is a quiet truth beneath that romance. The light that reaches you has been sifted by clouds of sulfuric acid, scattered and sent back through the velvet air. A harsh chemistry yields a tender shimmer. Stand with that shimmer for a breath. Imagine the world below, continents of basalt hidden under a roof of gold, sunlight poured onto cloud tops, then dispersed into a luminous haze. The sky you see from Earth is a memory of those scattering droplets, each one turning a ray of light, a little softer, a little warmer, before releasing it toward you. There is no flicker, no glittering points only. The steady lamplight of a planet holding the sun and letting go. In the language of the body, this brightness slows the heart. A key of safety, a promise that day lingers at the edge of night. Venus becomes a ritual of arrival and departure, a white thread sewing evening to morning. The sleepy scientist murmurs, "Brightness isn't loudness. It is patience," reflected. Breathe in the pale fire. Exhale the day's edges. Let your gaze soften until her glow feels like a hand on your shoulder, cool, constant, kind. On Venus, time stretches like honey. The planet spins so slowly. One rotation in hasta 243 Earth days, that a single day, sunrise to sunrise, lasts longer than a Venusian year, hasta 225 Earth days. And it turns backward, a retrograde rotation. If you stood on the cloud tops and watched the horizon, the sun would creep up in the west and sink in the east, a mistake the universe keeps on purpose. Yet above that slow backward ground, the atmosphere rushes, at the level of bright cloud. Decks about 50 to 70 kilometers. High winds circle the planet in 4 Earth days, a phenomenon called superrotation. Imagine the paradox. The body turns like a drifting stone, but its sky runs like a river. The clouds become a great conveyor of light and shadow, a soft belt carrying dawn around and around while the world beneath barely pivots. What would it feel like to be there? The surface is hidden by haze, but you could float in imagination at the temperate heights, where pressure and warmth are strangely Earth-like. The sun, a blurred coin, would ooze along the horizon. The amber daylight would not come from a blue dome. It would seep through a luminous ceiling. You would sense time as texture rather than ticks, a slow deepening of color, a drift of brightness, a long exhale of shadow. This sluggish spin likely formed from ancient exchanges, collisions, tidal grips, and atmospheric feedbacks, until Venus found a rhythm that is not ours but is perfectly hers. The sleep scientist in your ear breathes. Not all delays are errors. Some are invitations. In that invitation, urgency dissolves. Every decision has room to cool. Every thought has space to settle. A day that outlasts a year teaches the nervous system to uncoil. Breathe in the backward sunrise. Breathe out the idea that forward is the only holy direction. On Venus, even the sun agrees to move gently wrong to show you another way that's right. Think of an atmosphere not as air, but as architecture, arches of haze, stained glass of chemistry, islas of moving light. Venus wears such a cathedral. Its air is dense and devout, about 96.5% carbon dioxide, a breath of nitrogen, threaded with droplets of sulfuric acid that gather into layered clouds from roughly 48 to 70 kilometers high. Sunlight enters this sanctuary and becomes radiance scattered, softened, and returned as the bright albedo you see from Earth. Below those glowing decks, the air thickens until pressure at the surface would crush steel, approximadamente igual a 90 those Earth atmospheres, and temperature rises to approximadamente igual a 465 grados Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. This is the famous runaway greenhouse, heat trapped and retrapped as infrared light tries to escape and is sent back by carbon dioxide's patient grip. Yet, even in this furnace, serenity can be found because serenity is a pattern, not a temperature. In the cloud belt around 50–60 km, the pressure is akin to sea level on Earth, and the temperature is clement. There, winds sing at hundreds of kilometers per hour, but the motion is smooth. Laminar are planet-sized lullaby, carrying sunlight across a world that turns too slowly to keep up. Close your eyes and listen. The air would taste of sour stone if you could taste it, a faint metallic tang of aerosols. The light would be honey-colored, filtered through citrine glass. Textures would be silk on stone droplet, mists above, basaltic bone below. Radar has mapped that bone. Broad, volcanic plains, shield volcanoes, tessellated highlands named tesserae, all concealed beneath the cloud's gold. The veil does not hide chaos. It conducts order, moving heat from day to night so efficiently that temperatures barely differ from one hemisphere to the other. Venus is not a warning so much as a scripture about feedback, how light, gas, and surface can form a single instrument. The sleepy scientist leans close. Our veil does not lie when it glows. It tells the truth softly. Breathe in the cathedral's amber. Breathe out your need to see everything clearly, to trust it. Sometimes the filtered light is the kinder one. Sometimes gentleness is accuracy at a different wavelength. Lightning lives inside Venus like a thought that never needs a word. The clouds, thick with sulfuric droplets, layered like silk upon silk hold, charge the way a cathedral holds echoes. Grains and droplets brush, separate, gather voltage in patient spirals. Updrafts lift, downdrafts settle, and somewhere within the gold, an imbalance becomes inevitable. A filament of ionized air sketches itself across the dark, and light blossoms without sound. There is no thunder for human ears. The air is dense enough to carry it, yes, but you are not there to hear. And instruments riding past catch only whispers. Radio crackles, electromagnetic murmurs, the thin signatures of discharge across cloud-borne stone. Imagine watching from the temperate heights 55 kilometers up, where pressure is kind and warmth is human. A pale flash blooms within the cloud, diffused by droplets into a candlelit glow, and then the glow dissolves back into amber. No clap, no report, just illumination, as if the sky were remembering something and then choosing not to speak. In that moment, chemistry rewrites itself. Nitrogen fragments, sulfur finds new bonds, trace compounds rearrange like letters, becoming a softer sentence. The cloud deck is an alchemist, and lightning its brief punctuation, transforming, not scarring. Below, the furnace continues its hush of heat. Above, the winds keep their circle, ferrying charge and light around the planet, like monks passing a single flame. If you listen with the ribs instead of the ears, you sense a cadence. Build up, release, rest. It is the same rhythm as breath, the same as waves meeting shore. The sleepy scientist murmurs, "Some truths are best delivered as light." So inhale the quiet spark. Exhale the noise that insists on explanation. Let the flash be enough. In Venus's sky, not everything needs to announce itself to matter. Even a storm can be devotional when its brightness arrives like prayer and departs like mist. Venus knows rain the way. A dream knows water. High in the glowing decks, micro droplets of sulfuric acid gather from vapor, merge, and begin to fall beads of pale amber, tiny bells descending through warmth. They are born with intention, heavy enough to think of rivers, obedient to gravity's hymn. But beneath them lies heat, and more heat, and then a hush of fire that will not allow tender things to land. As the droplets descend, they enter layers too warm to forgive. They shrink, then thin, then lift into invisibility again, evaporating mid-air in a ritual so reliable the ground never learns their names. It is a cycle without a rival: condensation, descent, dissolution, return. In the altitude where humans might someday float, the rain feels almost kindly light patter on the hull, a soft hiss across a window. Lower, it becomes perfume without bottle, chemistry unbottled into air. The cloud deck remains beloved to light because of this delicate exchange. Droplets are made, unmade, remade. The veil sustains its brightness, not by storing water, but by circulating it as memory. Below the veil, the world is arid beyond metaphor. Rocks scorched to dull shine, basalts tempered by centuries of furnace noon. There, rain is only rumor. Only at altitude does the planet practice tenderness. Close your eyes and feel the shape of such weather inside your body. How many feelings begin to fall, then evaporate into thought before they touch ground? How many soften you from within, even when nothing outward changes? The sleepy scientist smiles, slow as sunrise through stained glass. Not every descent is meant to end. Some are meant to cleanse as they pass. Breathe in the cool chemistry of that high cathedral. Exhale the H of needing closure. On Venus, completion is a circle, not a landing. The rain that never arrives still nourishes the light. The path is the harvest. If the clouds were parted like curtains, Venus would reveal a stage of stone and pattern, broad volcanic lowlands, shield volcanoes like sleeping bells, and highlands textured into mosaic. These highlands are the tesserae tile-like terrains, wrinkled and cross-hatched as if mountains had learned calligraphy. They are older than the plains that surround them, tougher, lifted and compressed by forces that read like music scored into rock. Radar our lantern, in the fog paints the relief. It shows Aphrodite Terra, long as an ocean, Ishtar Terra, crowned by Maxwell Montes, and Lavinia, Alpha, Beta. Regio names like hymns for landscapes no eye has seen in visible light. Between them stretch vast basaltic seas, frozen flows of once molten stone. These plains are the planet's quiet testimony to former fire. Broad, smooth, unhurried eruptions that spread heat without spectacle, then cooled into calm. There is a mystery stitched into this map. Some models suggest Venus's surface was resurfaced in grand episodes, heat building under a thick lithosphere, until the lid loosened and lava exhaled across continents. Others see steadier pulses, a heartbeat of smaller eruptions and long waiting. Either way, the stone remembers both pressure and release. The tesserae keep the pressure folded, faulted, resilient. The plains keep the release dark, unbroken, restful. Stand, in imagination, upon a tessera ridge. The ground underfoot is a tessellated braid of ridged plateaus, each facet catching imagined sun in a slightly different gold. Denser air presses like warm water. The horizon blurs into brightness. Far below the clouds, no breeze cools your cheek. Yet, a feeling of movement persists, the super-rotating sky above dragging light from day into night with seamless grace. This is a geography of breath. Inhale, uplift, folding, the tessera's tense beauty. Exhale, eruption, spreading, the plain's long repose. The sleepy scientist traces the ridge with a fingertip of voice. Every world keeps two diaries, one in its heights, one in its smooth places. Breathe in the script of stone. Exhale into the meadow of basalt. You have within you both tessera and plain the pleats where life pressed hard, and the fields where it flowed and cooled. Above Venus's hidden continents, a current unrolls that no ocean could match. From 40 to 70 kilometers high, the air whirls around the planet at more than 300 kilometers per hour, circling in just 4 Earth days, while the surface below takes 243 to turn once. This is super-rotation, a tide of atmosphere that laps the slow planet until speed itself becomes the landscape. No one fully understands how it began. Solar heat, the Coriolis effect, gravity waves rising from the mountains, all play their part. But the truth is that Venus's sky moves faster than any single reason. It is motion for its own sake, stable, continuous, whole. Imagine standing in the calm beneath those roaring heights, where the dense air presses close like warm water. Above you, the unseen wind screams, yet you feel only a gentle drift and immense power translated into serenity. The Akatsuki spacecraft once floated there, tracing ultraviolet patterns in the clouds. It saw streaks curling like smoke across an unseen sphere. Each band carried light from day to night, softening the planet's heat so that even a world of fire keeps balance. In the data, the patterns resembled music, oscillations, harmonics, repeating cycles that return without haste. If you could ride those winds, you would travel around the planet faster than dawn itself, watching the sun stay still while you orbit through endless morning. You would see the upper clouds flash with lightning, and the horizon burn gold below the sulfur haze. There is danger there, yes, but also rhythm, order, a slow faith in circulation. The sleepy scientist breathes voice like silk drawn through air. The wind is not wild. It is memory, keeping the planet whole. So breathe with it. Inhale the rush that never ends. Exhale into the calm that remains. The mind has storms too, but beneath them lies stillness that does not move even when everything else does. On Venus, that stillness wears the shape of wind speed, so vast it becomes peace. In the perpetual twilight of Venus's surface, light does not fall from the sky, it rises from the stone. Infrared cameras aboard the Venus Express revealed this quiet miracle. Mountain peaks and high plateaus that glow faintly hotter than the plains below, radiant enough to sketch their outlines through the veil. Some call it Venus's evening glow, the planet's own version of starlight reflected from within. These mountains bear names like verses: Maxwell Montes, the tallest; Akhmatova, Freya, Danu. Each peak is a frozen wave of basalt, wrinkled by ages of contraction and uplift. They reach heights of 11 kilometers higher than Everest, and yet are invisible to any human eye, hidden by 60 kilometers of golden cloud. Their glow is not fire, not eruption, but warmth rocks slightly fresher, perhaps touched by young volcanism, still whispering heat from the mantle's slow breath. Imagine walking among them, your feet sinking into baked dust the color of tarnished copper. The air presses 90 times heavier than Earth's, but carries no sound. The light is amber, diffused, directionless, and around you, the mountains hum thermal ghosts radiating calm energy, the planet's pulse made visible. Scientists wonder if some volcanoes might still breathe. Infrared flashes, seen by orbiters, hint at flows not yet cooled, lava plains renewing themselves quietly beneath the clouds. If true, Venus is not dead, but dreaming its crust, turning in slow meditation rather than sleep. The sleepy scientist whispers like steam over stone. Even mountains glow when they learn to keep their heat. So breathe with the hills that shine without flame. Inhale endurance. Exhale exhaustion. To hold warmth without burning is its own kind of grace. Venus teaches this gently, through rock and silence, how to radiate, not consume. Though Venus has no strong magnetic shield like Earth's, it carries a ghost field, faint and rhythmic, pulsing through the solar wind. It is born not of a solid dynamo, but of motion-charged particles in the upper atmosphere, brushed by sunlight, creating an induced magnetosphere that flickers like the shadow of a heartbeat. Deep below, the core itself remains molten, iron and nickel swirling slowly under a lid of rock that refuses to split into plates. Seismic waves, inferred from orbit, tell of subtle motion, heat not gone but patient, pressing upward in convection, currents that rise and fade like thoughts through sleep. Venus is geologically quiet, only on the surface. Inside, it breathes. Messinger and Venus Express both found hints of this inner steering. Variations in gravity, minute changes in rotation, patches of sulfur dioxide in the upper air that bloom and vanish as if vented from below. Every few years, the planet exhales invisibly, adjusting its skin. Its silence is not stillness. It is contained movement, like a heart beating beneath calm water. Stand, in imagination, within that hush. You feel nothing at first, then a faint vibration, slower than any pulse. Not a tremor, not a quake, just the sense that the planet under you is thinking. The sleepy scientist hums. To be alive is not always to move. Sometimes it is to keep the possibility of movement close. Breathe in that idea. Exhale your need to be loud, to be living. The molten heart of Venus turns unseen, yet it sustains everything above it, the clouds, the winds, the glow. Your quiet persistence can do the same. Venus, though silent to our ears, hums to the cosmos. When sunlight strikes her ionosphere, the layer where atmosphere meets space, it steers an invisible choir of electrons. They dance, spiral, and release radio waves, a whisper too high for hearing but not too faint for instruments. Every sunrise on Venus begins with this subtle electrical dawn chorus, captured by passing spacecraft as static that pulses, brightens, and fades. The Pioneer Venus orbiter was one of the first to listen. Its detectors translated the waves into sound, and what came through was haunting. A long hiss, like breath, a low tremor like distant thunder, and beneath it all, a rhythmic flicker, the planet's slow heart rendered in light. Each burst tells of charged particles colliding, of the solar wind brushing Venus's skin and drawing a tone from it like bow on string. The planet does not resist the touch. It transforms it. Magnetic fields sculpt the radio waves into harmonics that ripple outward into the void, a signal of existence. I am here. I am still warm. I am still turning. From Earth, those frequencies merge into the background symphony of the solar system, a music we hear only when we learn to subtract ourselves from the noise. If you could stand within the upper clouds, you would not hear the song, but feel it as vibration through your bones, a shimmering, like the moment before rain, a charge that fills the air with a taste of metal and light. Every spark of sunlight that meets sulfur droplets feeds the same melody, turning radiation into resonance. The sleepy scientist breathes softly, as though repeating the rhythm. Even silence can carry a signal. You only need to listen at the right wavelength. So, inhale the pulse that rides sunlight. Exhale the need to speak it aloud. Venus sings not through words, but through consistency. Her song is the proof that even in storm, there can be harmony. Venus is the master of balance through excess. Though one half faces the sun for months, and the other lies in night as long. The temperature across the planet barely changes. Day and night, pole and equator, about 465 grados Celsius everywhere, as if the planet decided long ago that equality mattered more than comfort. This astonishing uniformity comes from the super-rotation of the atmosphere and its greenhouse cocoon. Sunlight enters easily, but escapes reluctantly. Infrared radiation, once absorbed, bounces between clouds and carbon dioxide, each photon trapped in a patient relay that warms every breath of air until all are the same. The result is not chaos, it is consensus. Messinger's infrared maps show smooth gradients of brightness, no glaring hotspots, no cold shadows. Even volcanic plains glow with the same steady whir. Imagine standing there, the sun veiled but constant, the light amber and thick, the ground radiating warmth through the soles of your boots until it feels like memory rather than temperature. Nothing rushes here, nothing freezes. Even extremes are gentle in their constancy. If weather on Earth is conversation, weather on Venus is meditation, a single unbroken breath held for millennia. The sleepy scientist's voice turns into a low hum, almost like heat itself speaking. Sometimes equilibrium is louder than change, so breathe with Venus's evenness. Inhale the sameness that soothes. Exhale the craving for variance that keeps the heart restless. There is beauty in a world that glows the same in every direction, not because it has no difference, but because it learned to let differences melt into harmony. Long ago, so long that sunlight itself was younger, Venus may have known seas, not the thick acid clouds we see now, but real oceans of water, shallow and blue, lapping against basalt shores under a faint golden sun. Isotopic clues in the atmosphere tell the story. There is too much deuterium, a heavy form of hydrogen, a fingerprint left when ordinary hydrogen drifted into space and escaped. It means Venus once had more water than it does today. Enough, perhaps, to cover the planet in waves hundreds of meters deep. But the sun grew stronger, and the air grew thicker, and the balance that kept liquid calm began to tip. Evaporation quickened. Water vapor rose high into the sky, where ultraviolet light broke it apart. Hydrogen escaping, oxygen reacting, vanishing into minerals below. Ocean became cloud. Cloud became mirror. Mirror became furnace. This is not tragedy. It is transformation. The water did not die. It changed state, from liquid to vapor, from ocean to atmosphere, from weight to radiance. It became the very light that makes Venus shine so beautifully today. If you listen with a quiet heart, you can almost hear the surf that once was, echoing in the pattern of clouds, in the cycles of lightning and sulfur rain. The memory of waves is still there, hidden in the chemistry, softly rearranged into glow. The sleepy scientist whispers, nothing truly disappears. It only changes the way it carries light. So breathe with that truth. Inhale what was. Exhale what remains. Let the notion of loss melt into exchange. Venus's oceans became its atmosphere. Its storms became its mirror. Its memory became its song. The world endures by changing shape, as though you, between the blistering surface below and the frigid emptiness above, Venus keeps a thin, golden middle world, a band of atmosphere, 50 to 60 kilometers high, where the pressure and temperature are almost Earth-like. It is here, among the droplets of sulfuric acid, that scientists wonder whether life might quietly exist. This idea, first whispered decades ago, grew stronger when the pioneer Venus and later the Venus Express found mysterious absorbers in the clouds, dark patches that changed brightness and shape, as if something were moving, multiplying, or simply drifting in patterns beyond chemistry. Then, in Doe's Milvaint, came a controversial hint: phosphine. On Earth, phosphine gas is made by living things, bacteria that thrive in oxygen-poor swamps and guts, creatures that turn decay into breath. When telescopes caught that same spectral fingerprint, in the clouds of Venus, the world paused. Could there be microbes riding the updrafts, shielded from the heat below, bathed in soft amber light and acid rain? No proof came, only questions. Some saw error in the data, others saw invitation. But either way, the thought stayed that perhaps Venus's beauty hides not emptiness, but endurance. If life exists there, it would not be fragile. It would be resilient, woven from sulfur and sunlight, floating cells with reflective shells that shimmer like golden dust motes, sustained by chemistry that tastes like survival itself. Imagine it. Tiny orbs of life, drifting endlessly, rising with the heat, sinking with the cool, feeding on carbon and light, never touching the ground. A whole ecosystem of motion lies, a biosphere of cloud dwellers, living not upon a planet but within its breath. The sleepy scientist smiles softly, as if seeing them even now. If life can exist in a drop of acid, then hope can exist anywhere. So breathe in possibility. Exhale certainty. The story of Venus is not over. It may just be happening above our reach, in the luminous quiet between lightning and dawn. Mini hook. But far below those drifting mysteries, the surface remains a world of molten echoes, with landscape sculpted by ancient volcanoes that once remade an entire planet in silence. When radar first revealed Venus's hidden terrain, scientists expected mountains and plains. They did not expect volcanoes everywhere. More than 1,600 major volcanic structures and possibly hundreds of thousands of smaller domes cover the planet's face like the notes of a vast, slow symphony. Some are immense shield volcanoes, Maat Mons, Sif Mons, Orza Mons, rising gently for hundreds of kilometers, their slopes broad as continents, their calderas quiet but vast enough to cradle cities. Others are pancake domes, flat, smooth, mounds formed by thick, viscous lava that cooled in layered stillness, like molten honey allowed to rest. For decades, Venus was thought geologically dead, its heat trapped beneath an unbroken crust. But recent radar comparisons, taken years apart, revealed subtle changes: the opening of vents, the reshaping of lava plains, flickers of heat in the infrared, signs that volcanoes may still breathe. No eruptions caught in act, only the afterglow, like embers turning beneath ash. And that may be enough, because even quiet fire sustains balance. It recycles gases, refreshes minerals, and keeps the planet's slow heart beating. Imagine standing on a cooled flow. Beneath your feet, black rock warm as blood. Above you, the sky, a glowing amber dome. The air hums faintly with static. The horizon quivers as heat ripples through it. Nothing moves quickly, but everything lives in motion. The sleepy scientist speaks in a near whisper. Fire is just light that learned to rest. So breathe with the lava's patience. Inhale the warmth that never burns. Exhale the illusion that all creation must roar. Venus remade itself, not with explosions, but with persistence. Our planet built from quiet eruptions that lasted centuries at a time. Mini Hook. And even now, within its layered skies, Venus holds a rhythm of storm, a breathing pulse of thunder and light that travels endlessly around the globe. Venus's atmosphere is an unending circuit, a vast loop of wind, heat, and motion that encircles the planet like a living current. There is no true beginning, no border between day and night, only an eternal Hadley cell, a river of rising air at the equator, flowing poleward, descending, and returning along the surface. A planetary breath that never pauses. At the terminator line, where day melts into night, clouds pile into towering walls, stretching for thousands of kilometers. There, pressure and temperature meet in perfect tension, creating the planet's most beautiful and most violent skies. Lightning flashes softly through the veil, winds surge in endless spirals, and sulfur rains form and vanish again and again. This isn't chaos, it's choreography. Each molecule of air knows its part, rising, turning, falling, in a rhythm so slow it feels like meditation. Through this balance, Venus moves heat evenly across her body, maintaining that astonishing constancy of warmth. Akatsuki's infrared eyes once watched this storm in motion. Waves rippling across the cloud tops, spirals unfolding like galaxies, jets curling around poles with the precision of clockwork. It is not a storm you survive. It is a storm you join, a soft, roaring silence that enfolds you whole. The sleepy scientist's voice becomes barely a breath. Even tempests can be graceful if they know their rhythm. So breathe with the storm's pulse. Inhale as it rises. Exhale as it turns. Feel how even power can be kind when it moves in endless return. Venus's great storm is not destruction. It is the art of continuation, a wind that has forgotten how to stop. Every world in the solar system turns toward dawn except one. Venus spins the other way, slow and deliberate, her surface crawling from east to west so that the sun rises where we would expect it to set. A full rotation takes 243 Earth days, longer than her entire year, and yet her movement is steady, a slow, reverse heartbeat that never falters. Scientists still debate how this backwardness began. Perhaps an ancient collision nudged her off rhythm. Perhaps the sun's gravitational pull and the dense atmosphere worked together over eons, turning her slowly around like a leaf caught in a slow eddy of light. Whatever the cause, Venus now drifts in a rhythm all her own, a planet that chose to move against the current. If you could stand on her surface, you would see the sun rise in the west, bows, and begin to slide back down the same horizon. The sky would never truly change. Perpetual twilight, honey-colored, heavy, eternal. The clouds would reflect gold through the haze, and the air itself would shimmer like breath held too long. Messinger and Venus Express both confirm this rotation, not just in numbers, but in feeling, tracking how the clouds move faster than the planet itself, how the wind rushes past the stone below, as if the atmosphere refuses to obey the rock. Venus's skin and her sky live in different time scales, different directions, and yet they coexist perfectly. It is a strange kind of harmony. One world, two motions. A surface moving backward, a sky running forward. It is the embodiment of contradiction without conflict. The sleepy scientist whispers through the static hum of wind. Direction is only meaning when measured by comparison. Alone, even backward, is still beautiful. So breathe with her reversal. Inhale the courage to move differently. Exhale the need for approval from gravity or gaze. Venus turns in her own way, and the sun still rises to meet her. The universe does not scold. It simply watches, are wed by the grace of defiance. Venus's spin and orbit are not random. They are choreographed. Every 243 Earth days, she turns once upon her axis. Every 225 days, she completes her path around the sun. The result is a resonance, a near-perfect dance where the same sides of Venus face the sun at nearly the same moments, again and again, like steps in a slow waltz of light. When Radha tracked her surface features, scientists discovered something extraordinary. Though the planet turns backward, the same regions warm under sunrise each time she passes. It is as if Venus remembers where her mornings belong. This resonance creates long, repeating seasons of heat, in which the light does not move but returns. The same glow, the same shadows, an echo of the previous orbit's dawn. In this way, Venus measures time differently. She does not count in days, but in patterns of returning light. Each year is a repetition of warmth. Each day, a whisper of eternity. There is no hurry here, only rhythm, the slow choreography of gravity and spin. To a traveler floating above the clouds, the sun's path would seem ritualistic, rising, pulsing, reversing, a gentle pendulum in golden air. The planet's glow would shift only slightly with each orbit, as though she were breathing in sunlight and exhaling the faintest silver. The sleepy scientist hums softly. When time repeats, it isn't punishment. It's the universe making sure beauty is noticed. So breathe with her cycle. Inhale the returning dawns. Exhale the fear of monotony. In repetition, there is rest. In slowness, there is shape. Venus's waltz with the sun is not about speed, but grace. A reminder that orbits are not circles, but lullabies. Each turn another verse in the same cosmic song. Unlike Earth, Venus lacks a strong magnetic core. Her field is not born from deep iron currents, but from interaction, the electric breath between her atmosphere and the solar wind. When the sun's charged particles crash into her clouds, Venus bends the impact, wrapping herself in a soft, temporary magnetic veil that flickers and shifts with every sunrise. This induced magnetosphere behaves like silk in a storm, delicate yet astonishingly protective. It deflects particles that would otherwise strip the air away, holding the upper atmosphere in a trembling balance. In ultraviolet images, this veil glows faintly blue, like moonlight passing through smoke, invisible to eyes, yet steady enough to cradle a planet. The Venus Express once crossed its edge and felt the hum. To one varia, a vibration of electric fields, a soft tension where solar wind meets planetary breath. It is a frontier without a line, a gradient of energy, an aurora too subtle to see. Within it, electrons dance like fireflies, their collisions creating faint radio sighs that trail behind the planet as it sails through sunlight. This veil is fragile and impermanent, and yet it endures, renewed with every new gust of solar wind. It is a shield that never sleeps, a boundary that listens rather than resists. The sleepy scientist's tone is reverent, Strength is not always solid. Sometimes it's the ability to bend and return. So breathe with her magnetic pulse. Inhale the charged quiet of invisible protection. Exhale your need for walls of stone. Venus defends herself, not with armor, but with response, meeting each blow with grace until it becomes part of the rhythm. And somewhere within that rhythm, invisible threads of light whisper between planet and sun, reminding both that even fire and reflection can coexist in perfect tenderness. Before telescopes, before names for orbits and spectra, human eyes already knew Venus. She was the first light of morning and the last light of dusk. Ah, single bright flame that rose and fell, with devotion so constant that ancient cultures thought they were two different stars, one for beginnings, one for endings. The Sumerians called her Inanna, the radiant goddess who descended into darkness and rose again. The Greeks named her Phosphoros, the bringer of dawn, and Hesperus, the keeper of twilight, two identities that time later merged into one. The Mayans watched her carefully, tracking her appearances and disappearances in a 580 rhythm, so precise that it became the heartbeat of their calendar. Across languages and centuries, she meant the same thing: return. From Earth, Venus appears near the sun, never far enough to rule the night, never faint enough to be forgotten. She climbs the eastern sky just before sunrise, then sinks into the west after sunset, trading one horizon for another. For a few weeks each cycle, she vanishes entirely, passing behind or in front of the sun, a brief disappearance before rebirth. Each reappearance is startling, a sudden gleam in the dawn, like memory resurfacing after sleep. Her brightness is unmatched, amagnidad, near, 4.6, so luminous that she can cast shadows on still water. Yet her light does not glare. It glows. It's not a spotlight, but a presence. A small, patient guidance. Every culture looked up and saw devotion, rhythm, love, but they also saw hope made visible, a light that proved darkness has an end. Venus's cycle became the oldest lullaby of astronomy, proof that absence does not mean ending, that every descent into shadow is just part of the turning. The sleepy scientist speaks softly, almost to themselves. Every dawn you have ever seen has known her name. So breathe with that light. Inhale her return. Exhale your forgetting. Let the first star and the last star become one stillness behind your eyes. The light of Venus is not a beginning or an end. It's continuity, and in continuity there is peace. If you could draw Venus's orbit from above, you would see grace given shape. Every 8 Earth years, Venus and Earth meet the Sun 5 times in a pattern of perfect symmetry, a 5-pointed flower, each petal formed by their alignments, their slow cosmic duet. This geometry, known as the Venus pentagram, has enchanted astronomers and artists alike for centuries. With each loop, Venus traces a petal across space, a curving ellipse of motion and light. When the 5th petal closes, the pattern begins again. Never exact, always nearly perfect. The difference so small, it feels like breath between notes. The harmonic resonance behind this dance is simple but profound. For every 8 Earth years, Venus completes almost exactly 13 orbits. The ratio 3 contra 8 is the same that shapes music and spiral shells. The mathematics of beauty written into motion. This is not coincidence. It's the way gravity sings. Imagine watching from above the solar system. Earth, tracing a blue circle, Venus looping faster in her golden orbit. Every time they align, one veil forms in sunlight, radiant, deliberate, a celestial mandala blooming in slow time. If the heavens could hum, this would be their refrain. The sleepy scientist's tone softens into awe. Symmetry is not perfection, it's repetition done lovingly. So breathe in this cosmic flower. Exhale your sharp lines, your rigid measures. Let the idea of beauty shift from precision to patience. Every petal takes years to form, but the flower always returns. Venus teaches not speed, but elegance. How to turn endlessly and never lose grace. Sunlight on Venus is not like sunlight on Earth. It arrives brilliant, unfiltered, 10 times stronger than what we feel here. And then it slows, folded and scattered by layers of cloud so thick that day becomes an amber haze. Shadows dissolve, and the horizon glows instead of darkens. No beam ever strikes the ground directly. Every photon is refracted, shared between droplets of sulfuric acid, turned from harshness to honey. By the time it reaches the surface, the light has lost its color. The world shines in burnished gold, lit not from above, but from within. Messengers and Venus Express's photometers recorded strange gradients of brightness, subtle differences where sunlight bounces upward again, layer after layer, until the whole planet becomes a lantern. From orbit, you can't tell where day ends or night begins. The clouds hold the light too well, and yet, within that brilliance, there are blues and violets invisible to us. Wavelengths scattered differently, painted by unknown particles that still puzzle scientists. Somewhere in that unseen color might live the signature of those hypothetical microbes, shifting the woo of the clouds just enough to whisper, "We are here." For us, though, the color is feeling, not fact. Amber, gold, soft silver, tones that make the body unclench, that slow the nervous system, like a lullaby in light. Even heat, when turned to color, can become comfort. The sleepy scientist exhales slowly, the sound almost luminous. Every light has its softness, if you let it pass through something kind. So breathe with Venus's filtered glow. Inhale what burns and let it mellow through patience. Exhale brightness as warmth, not glare. What passes through gentleness is never lost. It only learns how to be beautiful. When the sun slips behind Venus and her bright crescent fades, astronomers sometimes glimpse something impossible, a faint, ghostly light glowing on her dark side. It's called the ashen glow, to a phenomenon so subtle that even seasoned observers doubt their eyes when they see it. Through telescopes, it looks like a soft grey shimmer, a whisper of daylight where there should be night. Some call it illusion, others swear it's real. Centuries of watchers from Cassini to modern astronomers have tried to explain it, but Venus guards her secrets closely. Perhaps it's lightning, reflected and scattered through the deep clouds, millions of tiny flashes merging into a low, steady radiance. Perhaps it's air glow, molecules high in the atmosphere, releasing energy after sunset, glowing the way oxygen paints our auroras on Earth. Or perhaps it's something more delicate still, a chemical lullaby between sulfur, carbon, and sunlight, too faint for equations to hold. When Venus Express peered through the darkness with infrared eyes, it saw that the glow shifts. sometimes strong, sometimes gone entirely. It flickers like breath, a pulse of luminosity woven into the planet's nightside silence. To imagine it from within, you would stand under clouds so thick they smother starlight. The world would appear dim, but not dark, the ground glowing softly, as if the rocks themselves remembered daylight. The air would hum faintly, with static, and you might think the night itself was alive. The sleepy scientist speaks gently, voice like phosphorescence in deep water. Even when the light withdraws, the world keeps shining from memory. So breathe with that faint radiance. Inhale the quiet persistence of unseen brightness. Exhale the thought that darkness is absence. Every shadow remembers its source. On Venus, night is never empty. It's simply the place where light goes to rest. If you could strip away the clouds and see Venus in visible light, you would find a world of craters and plains, but not as many as you'd expect. Unlike the Moon or Mercury, Venus's surface bears surprisingly few scars. Those that remain vast circles like Meade Crater, stretching 270 kilometers across, stand out against smoother seas of basalt. This sparseness tells a story. Something, long ago, renewed the surface, melting the past into evenness. Geologists call it a global resurfacing event, a time, perhaps 500 million years ago, when heat trapped beneath the crust escaped at once. Lava covered most of the planet, smoothing ancient wounds into pattern. Radar mapping shows this strange order. Craters are evenly distributed, no region older or younger than the rest. It's as if the planet exhaled, releasing all its hidden fire in one long sigh. Afterward, everything cooled together, frozen in a near-perfect symmetry of renewal. Today, that surface remains young. Geologically speaking, a balance between creation and stillness. No plate tectonics like Earth's, no drifting continents, only slow adjustments, wrinkles of contraction, a world that keeps its shape through patience rather than motion. Imagine walking those plains. The stone beneath your feet once flowed like water, then settled into silence. The air presses heavy, the light burns gold, and each crater rim glows with the faintest red, as if still remembering the fire that made it. The sleepy scientist whispers, healing doesn't erase the scar, it makes it part of the pattern. So breathe with the even ground. Inhale the scent of cooled fire. Exhale the need to separate past from present. Venus keeps both, the mark and the renewal, woven into one calm surface that hums quietly beneath the clouds. At Venus's poles, the serene planet hides a storm that never ends. High above the cloud decks, a vast, double-eyed vortex spins, a cyclone of light and shadow, large enough to swallow continents whole. It's not chaos, it's choreography. Infrared eyes aboard Akatsuki and Venus Express watched it swirl in perfect grace, its twin centers orbiting one another like dancers, changing shape yet never losing rhythm. This polar vortex forms from air that cools and sinks, spiraling inward as it descends, creating winds that reach 300 kilometers per hour. And yet, in the heart of the storm, there is balance. The two eyes circle a calm center, a geometric symmetry born from turbulence. Viewed in infrared, the vortex glows red and amber, its curves shifting like petals in slow motion. It is breathtaking, a storm so smooth it looks like sculpture, Every few days, the twin eyes merge and separate again, breathing like a planet within a planet. Scientists call it a Kelvin wave, a self-sustaining oscillation of temperature and motion, a natural rhythm that holds for centuries. It's not a monster, but a metronome. Imagine hovering there in a balloon, watching the vortex turn below, clouds folding, unfolding, the poles glowing with thermal light. You would feel the air steady under you, not violent, but poised. Every rotation would soundless, to though gravity itself were sighing. The sleepy scientist's voice floats like vapor. Even storms can meditate. So breathe with the vortex. Inhale the motion. Exhale the calm. Let your thoughts spiral but never scatter. Venus's poles are not madness. They are mirrors, showing that order and chaos, when given time, can become the same thing, though she burns under thick clouds and endless heat. Venus shares a secret rhythm with her sister planet. Every 584 Earth days, she and Earth align perfectly with the Sun, a moment called inferior conjunction, when Venus passes between us and the golden center. Then, 292 days later, she appears on the opposite side, la celestial heartbeat that repeats again and again, steady as a lullaby. This rhythm forms part of the 5-petal cycle we traced before, but its intimacy with Earth is deeper still. For every 8 years that pass on Earth, Venus completes 13 orbits around the Sun, the same ratio found in ocean tides, in musical scales, and in the spiral of a nautilus shell. It's the mathematics of harmony, woven into the dance of planets. From space, you would see the 2 orbits gliding like silk ribbons, sometimes crossing close, sometimes stretching apart, never touching, yet always pulling on each other, their gravity exchanging whispers of energy. Each time Venus passes near, Earth's orbit tugs slightly, and in return, Venus shifts, subtle, graceful, an invisible thread. Ancient astronomers noticed it long before physics could explain it. The Maya, the Greeks, the Babylonians, all measured this cycle. All built calendars around her reappearances. They saw what modern science confirms. Venus is not distant. She and Earth move like sisters bound by time, each shaping the other's rhythm. The sleepy scientist murmurs softly. Some relationships do not need touch to change the course of things. So breathe with this cosmic kinship. Inhale the quiet pull between worlds. Exhale your need to rush toward others. Even separation can be harmony, and distance can sing when time keeps the beat. Venus has long been called Earth's twin, and not without reason. They are nearly the same size. Venus only a few 100 kilometers smaller. Their densities are almost identical. Their compositions much the same. Iron hearts, rocky mantles, a shared beginning in the cradle of the early solar system. But the resemblance ends at the surface, where Earth breathes oceans, Venus breathes fire. Where we hold a sky of blue, she holds one of sulfur and heat. It's as if 2 siblings were born alike, and then one dreamt of light, while the other dreamt of smoke. Billions of years ago, Venus might have been gentler, perhaps even held liquid water, a thin atmosphere, a mild sun. But as solar radiation warmed her, steam rose, trapping more heat. The oceans boiled away. Carbon dioxide flooded the sky, and, in a runaway spiral, Venus became what scientists call a greenhouse world. Not a paradise, but a warning. Yet, there's a strange comfort in that symmetry. It means that what happened there helps us understand what could happen here. Her reflection is both a memory and a message, a quiet mirror suspended in space, reminding us that balance is delicate and warmth can turn to fever if held too long. Imagine us standing on her surface. The gravity feels familiar. The horizon curves like home, but the air presses like stone. You look up. The same sun, the same distance, but the light feels different, as if it remembers what Earth could forget. The sleepy scientist's tone softens to a hush. Even twins can become opposites when one forgets how to cool. So breathe with her heat. Inhale the lesson of balance. Exhale your worry for what cannot be undone. Venus did not fail. She transformed. And transformation, even when harsh, is still a form of becoming. Beneath kilometers of stone and lava, Venus hides a molten core, made mostly of iron and nickel, just like Earth's. But unlike ours, her heart turns more slowly, its motion dulled by heat and pressure, like a song trapped beneath heavy curtains. Radar data and gravitational readings suggest that this core might be partly liquid, still hot enough to shift and churn, but not fast enough to create a strong magnetic field. The planet hums faintly, its heartbeat steady but quiet, as if the energy of motion has turned inward. Scientists once expected a dead interior, yet the evidence tells another story. Venus still breathes. Subtle quakes ripple through her crust. Mountains shift, plains rise, as though her molten blood still circulates. The Magellan spacecraft detected patterns that suggest recent volcanic activity, not fossils of fire, but its living shadow. In infrared scans, regions glow faintly warmer than their surroundings, like embers hiding beneath ash. Perhaps the iron heart steers now and then, sending warmth upward through fractures in the crust, renewing the ground in whispers. It's a strange comfort to know that even after billions of years, our planet can still carry warmth inside, long after the surface grows still. The sleepy scientist's voice hums, low as the sound of tectonic breath. Stillness is never absence. Sometimes it's energy resting in patience. So breathe with her heart. Inhale the pulse you cannot hear. Exhale the idea that silence means the end. Beneath her golden shell, Venus keeps the memory of creation warm, a reminder that within every quiet world, something still glows. Venus is a world of fire, disguised as gold. Beneath the thick clouds and honey-colored light lie more than 1,600 major volcanoes, and perhaps hundreds of thousands more, their outlines softened by haze and time. No other planet in our solar system holds so many. Here, volcanoes are not interruptions, they are identity. Some, like Mat Mons and Sapas Mons, rise over 8 kilometers high, their flanks wide as continents. Their slopes are gentle, built not by violent eruptions, but by rivers of molten rock that once flowed for hundreds of kilometers, slow and luminous, painting the plains in glowing red. In radar images, the lava fields shimmer like silk, each flow preserved in eerie perfection. The heat once poured outward, then cooled into glassy seas, shapes that look almost liquid, still, as though one breath from the planet could wake them again. When the Venus Express orbited overhead, its instruments detected faint heat signatures from Idan Mons, a possible sign that some volcanoes still breathe. If true, it means Venus is not fossilized, but alive, a restless body, beneath a calm face. Imagine standing near such a place. The air around you glows dimly, the horizon blurred by heat. No wind, no sound, only the soft shimmer of a planet exhaling light. Ash would rise, then fall back immediately, caught by the weight of the sky. Even the fire can't escape. The sleepy scientist murmurs, each word molten and slow. Some hearts never cool completely. They only learn how to glow quietly. So breathe with her volcanoes. Inhale the stillness that follows eruption. Exhale the acceptance of change. Venus teaches that rebirth need not roar. Sometimes it flows, softly, endlessly, shaping without demanding to be seen. Between volcanoes and plains, Venus folds herself into endless valleys, ribbons of stone that stretch for thousands of kilometers. They are called rift zones, but they move unlike Earth's faults. No plates slide apart here. Instead, the planet contracts and breathes, the crust buckling like slow fabric, as the mantle below swells and cools. From orbit, these valleys look like frozen ocean swells, smooth curves of basalt, each crest rising where the ground once pushed upward, each trough marking a place where heat retreated. Radar maps reveal networks so intricate that geologists named them tesserae, after mosaic tiles, a fitting name for land that looks hand-laid by time itself. These tessera highlands may be the oldest regions of Venus, remnants of her youth before the great resurfacing. They rise like ancient memory, older than any mountain on Earth, holding patterns of compression and flow that scientists still struggle to read. In Alpha Reggio, the ridges intersect at near right angles, a geometry found nowhere else in the solar system. There, light behaves differently too. The radar echoes stronger, suggesting something unusual about the rock. Perhaps more silica, perhaps remnants of an earlier, wetter world. Imagine gliding above them in a silent probe. Below, the ground gleams like dark velvet, ridges glowing faintly as they catch the filtered sunlight. No color, no sound, only texture, a landscape written in touch rather than tone. The sleepy scientist breathes out a low hum. Even stone remembers the rhythm it was made in. So breathe with the valleys. Inhale the patience of cooled movement. Exhale the need to see proof of life. Even without rivers or wind, Venus moves slowly, invisibly. A planet that sculpts itself in the language of silence. Though the surface of Venus is dry beyond imagining, its skies are liquid. At altitudes between 45 and 70 kilometers, the air thickens into endless cloud decks, filled with droplets of sulfuric acid and traces of water vapor. They form, in layers, 3 great oceans of mist, rolling forever over the planet's golden face. Within these layers, winds scream at 360 kilometers per hour, carrying entire masses of cloud around the planet in just 4 Earth days. This is the miracle of superrotation, where the atmosphere moves faster than the planet beneath it, whirling endlessly, as if the sky itself refuses to wait for the ground. To an observer drifting there, it would look like an ocean seen from below, currents within currents, waves made not of water, but of light and acid. Every droplet reflects sunlight in tiny bursts, and together they create a glow that gives the planet its haunting brilliance from afar. At certain wavelengths, spacecraft have glimpsed subtle flickers, ripples in brightness that travel across the clouds. They are gravity waves, born from the flow of air, over mountains far below, their crests spreading through the upper atmosphere. Like the slow heartbeat of wind, the Akatsuki probe captured these patterns, long, luminous arcs that ripple across hemispheres. They move with grace, not fury. Even storms here sound like breath. The sleepy scientist's voice grows airy, as though carried on those very winds. Even where the air is poison, the motion is music. So breathe with the rivers in the sky. Inhale the drift. Exhale the need to anchor. Let the thought of motion soothe you, for even chaos, when steady, becomes rhythm. Venus's atmosphere does not rage. It sings, a constant, golden whisper, flowing endlessly above the silence below. Among the billions of acid droplets drifting through Venus's upper atmosphere, some scientists believe there might be life, not the kind that walks or breathes, but the kind that floats, tiny, invisible, resilient. Life that survives not by conquering, but by learning how to endure the impossible. The idea is not new. In 1967, Carl Sagan and Harold Morowitz proposed that the temperate layer of Venus's clouds, between 50 and 60 kilometers high, could be home to microscopic organisms. There, the pressure and temperature are almost Earth-like, cool enough for complex chemistry, calm enough for molecules to hold hands. These creatures, if they exist, would live like drifting seeds, suspended in droplets of sulfuric acid, feeding on sunlight, carbon dioxide, and trace minerals lofted from below. They might be dark particles, absorbing ultraviolet light, and tinting the clouds in subtle amber hues that instruments have yet to fully explain. In 2020, telescopes on Earth detected a mysterious chemical phosphine in the upper clouds of Venus. On Earth, phosphine is produced only by life or by human industry. No known geological process on Venus could easily explain it. For a moment, the world held its breath. Had we found something alive? Later studies questioned the detection, but the mystery remains. Even now, the possibility hums quietly. Not proof, but potential. The dream that somewhere above those golden clouds, something still moves, still divides, still remembers what it means to be alive. Imagine a microscopic world, suspended in slow sunlight. No ground, no horizon, just an endless ocean of golden mist. Each droplet a home, each flash of light a heartbeat. Life, not as we know it, but as the universe allows it to be. The sleepy scientist's voice is soft as vapor. Life doesn't always need solid ground. Sometimes, it only needs a place to drift. So breathe with the dreamers. Inhale the faith that endurance can be gentle. Exhale the fear that isolation means extinction. Perhaps Venus never lost life. Perhaps she simply taught it how to float. The sun never truly leaves Venus alone. Every moment, a stream of charged particles, the solar wind, rushes outward from the sun, slamming into the planet's atmosphere and sculpting it into flowing waves of plasma. Because Venus has no strong magnetic field of her own, the solar wind shapes her directly, drawing out a comet-like tail that stretches millions of kilometers into space. This interaction creates a fragile magnetic boundary, a place where energy dances, charged particles swirl, currents form and dissolve, and electric fields shimmer unseen. From orbit, Venus express, once detected, bursts of plasma, sudden outflows of gas, escaping into the solar wind, like sighs of breath. In these moments, Venus seems almost alive, at atmosphere, breathing in light and exhaling ions into space. It is not erosion but exchange, a quiet conversation between planet and star. If you could watch in ultraviolet light, you'd see the boundary flicker, the air glowing, faintly blue, as particles collide and disperse. Every spark is a story of connection, the sun giving, the planet yielding, neither dominating, both participating in the eternal tide of energy. Scientists call this zone the induced magnetosphere, a veil rather than a shield. It bends instead of blocks, flexes instead of breaks. A dance, not a war. The sleepy scientist speaks in a low hum, as if echoing from that charged horizon. Even the strongest light can touch gently if the other side knows how to yield. So breathe with the solar wind. Inhale the rush of warmth. Exhale the resistance. Venus doesn't fight the sun. She flows with it. And in that surrender, she finds the shape of survival. Venus turns slower than any other planet. One single day, a full rotation on her axis, takes 243 Earth days. But her year, one orbit around the sun, lasts only 225 Earth days. That means her day is longer than her year. A paradox of motion, a contradiction held perfectly still. Imagine standing on her surface. The sun rises in the west, lingers for months in the sky, and then sets in the east. A single, endless arc of light. Night and day are not opposites here, but long, slow transitions, blurring into each other like breath. During that drawn-out dawn, the air warms, the clouds glow, and the golden haze deepens. Then, slowly, the light fades, not by darkness, but by patience. Even sunset takes weeks to complete. It is a planet built for endurance, not for change. Astronomers call this motion retrograde rotation, a spin opposite to most other planets. No one knows exactly why. Perhaps an ancient impact, perhaps the slow tug of solar tides that gradually reversed her turn. Whatever the cause, Venus moves backward through time, as if to remind the universe that there's no single direction to existence. Her days stretch so long that her atmosphere shifts with them. The upper winds rush forward, carrying sunlight around the globe, faster than the planet itself can turn. An eternal pursuit of dawn. The sleepy scientist's voice slows, each word a measure of that vast rotation. Time isn't uniform. It bends for those who move differently. So breathe with her days. Inhale the patience to wait for dawn. Exhale the urge to rush toward night. Venus turns slowly because she must. Because even planets, sometimes, need to linger in their own light, while the rocky body of Venus turns so slowly that a single day lasts almost a year. Her atmosphere does the opposite. It races. The clouds at the top of her sky circle the entire planet in just 4 Earth days. This phenomenon is called superrotation, and it is one of the great mysteries of planetary science. Imagine standing on the ground. If you could somehow survive the pressure and heat. Above you, the air would roar, though you would hear nothing, for sound cannot carry through such density. The wind would be moving at 360 kilometers per hour, but the weight of the atmosphere, 90 times heavier than Earth's, would make it feel like silence, pressing on every surface. No one knows exactly how this vast circulation began. Perhaps it started small, thermal currents rising from the day side, drifting toward the night side, then feeding themselves endlessly. Perhaps the sun's heat sculpted the motion, or the planet's slow spin stretched time, until the air decided to move faster than the stone below it. From orbit, probes like Akatsuki watched the cloud tops change, patterns forming, shifting, and reforming again. Long streaks of sulfuric haze spiraled across hemispheres, drifting faster than any storm could sustain, yet never breaking apart. It's not chaos, it's balance in motion. The winds move energy, redistributing heat between day and night, turning Venus into one vast breathing system. No side ever truly cools. No light ever truly leaves. The planet lives in constant dusk, its skies never still, its heart never hurried. The sleepy scientist's voice flows like air through velvet. Speed and stillness can live in the same breath. It only depends on where you choose to listen. So breathe with her winds. Inhale their unseen rhythm. Exhale your need to measure peace by quiet. Even the fastest storm can be meditative if it forgets to shout. Venus's clouds, thick and swirling, are not as tranquil as they seem. Deep within the yellow-gold mist, scientists have long suspected the flicker of lightning, not the bright, branching strikes of Earth, but soft, muted discharges that glow through the sulfuric haze like breathing embers. Early probes, Venera Once, Dose, and Pioneer Venus Orbiter, recorded faint electrical bursts. The static came not from machinery, but from the air itself, alive with charge. Some doubted the findings. The atmosphere was so thick, so conductiva, that lightning seemed unlikely. And yet, again and again, the signals returned. Recent missions like Venus Express and Akatsuki confirmed the flashes. Radio pulses born from the clouds, strong enough to travel through miles of acid vapor. Unlike Earth's storms, Venus's lightning doesn't roar or fork. It rolls softly, its light diffused into endless glow, painting the sky in slow pulses of silver and gold. Some believe this lightning helps create new molecules, breaking and reforming chemical bonds, breeding energy in the heavy air. Perhaps it even contributes to the mysterious dark absorbers, those unknown compounds that color Venus's clouds in shades of bronze and honey. Imagine floating there, in a balloon just above the densest layer. You wouldn't see flashes, only faint brightening, like candlelight through fog. The sound wouldn't reach you, only the feeling, a tingle, a presence, the quiet hum of voltage in the wind. The sleepy scientist whispers, almost reverently, even silence can hold thunder if you know how to listen for its rhythm. So breathe with her storms. Inhale the hidden fire. Exhale your fear of unseen forces. Not all lightning burns. Some illuminates softly, reminding us that energy and calm are not opposites, but companions, even from tens of millions of kilometers away. Venus's glow reaches us, a steady, silvery flame that outshines every star except the sun and moon. She is the morning star, the evening star, the one constant presence in the human sky. For millennia, sailors navigated by her light, poets wrote to her radiance, and civilizations marked time by her rising. She appears in the east before dawn, a single bright jewel, hung low against indigo. Weeks later, she trades horizons, falling to the west after sunset. The same glow, the same planet, seen from a different angle in the cosmic dance. Venus's brightness comes from her clouds, which reflect almost 75%, of the sunlight they receive, a higher albedo than any other planet. She is not self-luminous. She shines because she reflects. Every photon that reaches us is borrowed sunlight, softened and remade through her golden veil. When the air is clear, you can see her even in daylight, a palidot floating near the sun, stubbornly visible through the blue. At twilight, her reflection deepens, and sometimes, if the atmosphere is just right, she casts shadows, delicate, faint, but real. To ancient observers, this made her divine, a light that both appears and disappears, a promise that endings lead to returns. To modern astronomers, she remains a guide, her orbit a marker of precision, her glow a constant reminder that beauty can be born of reflection. The sleepy scientist breathes out softly. Even borrowed light can become its own kind of brilliance. So breathe with her glow. Inhale the idea that reflection is not imitation. Exhale the urge to burn brighter than others. The most luminous things in the universe often shine by remembering light, not by creating it. Imagine standing on the surface of Venus, the ground solid beneath you, the air thick as warm honey, the light golden and endless. And yet above, no stars, no night sky, no constellations to wish upon or measure by, just a ceiling of sulfuric clouds, glowing softly with the reflection of an unseen sun. Venus has no visible starscape. Her atmosphere is too dense, too bright, too layered with mist and acid. Even when the sun has set, the sky remains luminous, our permanent twilight, a world that never truly darkens. On Earth, night is contrast, light and shadow, rest and renewal. On Venus, it is continuity. The light fades, but never disappears, turning instead into a diffuse amber glow that filters through kilometers of cloud. Even the darkest moment feels like a memory of daylight. This absence of stars has a strange serenity to it, without points of reference. There is no direction, no up or down, only immersion. The horizon dissolves, and the sense of self dissolves with it. Probes that landed on the surface, the Venera missions of the Soviet Union, confirmed this. The world is bright, even under a perpetual canopy of haze. Cameras recorded a landscape bathed in golden fog, with visibility just a few kilometers. It looked like afternoon, but it was everywhere. Forever, to live under such a sky is to forget the stars exist. And yet, perhaps in forgetting, you learn a quieter truth, that peace does not require perspective, only presence. The sleepy scientist's voice drifts like soft light. When you stop looking for stars, you may finally see the glow within your own sky. So breathe with her golden blindness. Inhale the weight of light. Exhale the need for darkness to find rest. Venus does not sleep under constellations, but she dreams in a color all her own. Sleep without edges, a calm without end. If you could stand on Venus, the air would press on you with the force of Noventa Earth atmospheres, as if you were a kilometer beneath the ocean. It is a planet wrapped in weight, a pressure so great that even spacecraft can survive for only minutes before collapsing. The Venera landers, those brave emissaries of metal and will, touched down through the thick clouds, descending for over an hour through layers of gas, dense enough to slow their fall, without parachutes. As they reached the ground, their steel shells groaned, Seals hissed, carmenes cracked from heat, but they endured long enough to show us what no eye had seen before. A flat, rocky plain, glowing under a yellow sky. At the surface, temperatures reach 465 grados Celsius, hot enough to melt lead, hot enough to keep the rocks warm like embers. Even the light feels heavy, each photon slowed by air, so thick, it bends the path of vision itself. If you moved your hand before your eyes, it would trail slightly behind its own motion, as if the world hesitated to let go of shape. Sound would travel slower, deeper, more muffled, a heartbeat in syrup. And yet, despite this pressure, the surface is still, motionless, as though all that weight were not oppression, but embrace. Venice's sky is not cruel, it is simply immense. It holds everything in balance, every molecule pressing inward, every grain of stone holding firm. The sleepy scientist breathes, a slow exhale echoing through imaginary air. Sometimes gravity isn't a chain, it's an anchor that reminds us where we are. So breathe with her heaviness. Inhale the groundedness of weight. Exhale the need for lightness to feel free. Venus teaches that even under immense pressure, stillness can be beautiful. Venus's mountains do not rise from collision, as Earth's do, but from expansion, slow, steady, swelling, as heat pushes upward through her crust. There are no tectonic plates here, no drifting continents. The surface does not crack and shift, it blooms. Her Talus Peak, Maxwell Montes, rise nearly 1 kilometers above the lowlands, higher than any mountain on Earth. Yet it was formed not by violence, but by gradual uplift, like breath expanding beneath stone. Radar images from Magellan show the region covered in bright echoes, reflective as if coated in frost. But there is no ice on Venus. The frost here is metal, possibly pyrite or tellurium compounds, condensed from the air and dusted across the slopes. Like golden snow from orbit, the mountains shimmer faintly, their ridges outlined in glowing reflection. From the ground, they would look ghostly, half seen through the yellow mist, their edges softened, their summits hidden in haze. No wind carves these forms, no rain polishes them. They simply endure, unchanged for eons, their patience rivaling the stars they can't see. Scientists believe that deep beneath these peaks, magma still moves, slow waves of molten stone that lift the crust in pulses. Each mountain is a long exhale of heat, a frozen breath from the planet's interior. The sleepy scientist speaks softly. Even stillness can build mountains when it lasts long enough. So breathe with her highlands. Inhale their unwavering calm. Exhale your rush to rise quickly. On Venus, altitude is not ambition. It's endurance turned vertical. And in the golden air above those peaks, the weight of the planet feels lighter, as if patience itself could float. Before telescopes, before radar maps and probes, Venus was a myth, a story told through shimmer. She appeared first in the earliest dawns of civilization, a bright spark that refused to fade. To the ancient mind, her beauty demanded meaning. The Babylonians called her Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, for she rose both in tenderness and fury. The Greeks named her Aphrodite, born from sea foam, a vision of light emerging from turmoil. And the Romans, inheriting the myth, gave her the name we still speak, Venus. She became a symbol not just of love, but of duality, gentleness and strength, creation and destruction, all born from the same fire. Morning star and evening star, giver of light and bringer of storms. Even now, her myth feels fitting. Beneath the beauty of her glow lies a world of fire and pressure, a paradise turned inferno. The goddess of love, it seems, was forged in chaos. Ancient cultures saw her dual nature, not as contradiction, but as balance. In Mesopotamia, her morning aspect, Dilbat, was associated with victory and new beginnings. Her evening self, Ninciana, with mourning and rest. Each return to the sky was a resurrection. Each disappearance, a descent into the underworld. In the Mayan codices, Venus was a harbinger of both fortune and war. Priests timed ceremonies to her risings, believing her light could bless or destroy. The Aztecs watched her vanish and reappear after 8 days. The same cycle we now understand as her inferior conjunction, her passage between Earth and the Sun. The myth was never wrong, only poetic. For every orbit, every flare of light is indeed a descent and return, a dance of disappearance and renewal. The sleepy scientist tone grows hushed, reverent. Even chaos can give birth to grace. Venus reminds us that beauty is not the opposite of destruction. It is what rises from it. So breathe with her myth. Inhale the story that made her divine. Exhale the idea that perfection is pure. Every glow hides a storm. Every storm leaves light behind. Every century or so, Venus performs one of the rarest and most graceful acts in the heavens. She passes directly between Earth and the Sun, a small black dot gliding across the solar face. This is the transit of Venus, an event so infrequent that it happens in pairs, 8 years apart, and then not again, for more than a century. When it occurs, astronomers across generations unite in wonder. The last pair happened in 2004 and 2012. The next won't come until 2117. It is a crossing of beauty and precision, a cosmic clock ticking in centuries, not seconds. For early scientists, these transits were sacred experiments. In the 18th century, they traveled across oceans and continents to watch Venus's tiny silhouette slide over the sun's surface. By timing her path, they calculated the scale of the solar system itself, the first true measure of cosmic distance. Venus, bright goddess, became a ruler of space. Modern telescopes still watch her crossings. When she enters the solar disk, the sun dims slightly, its edge wreathed with soft light refracted through Venus's atmosphere. For a few brief hours, we can see her veil, the halo of air-bending sunlight around her edge, a glowing ring that reveals more about her atmosphere than any lander could. To witness it is to see time stretch, our slow movement against eternity. No hurry, no drama, just the quiet passage of a shadow over a sea of flame. The sleepy scientist's voice lowers to a whisper. Even the smallest shadow can teach the scale of the infinite. So breathe with her crossing. Inhale the patience of centuries. Exhale the illusion of urgency. The cosmos does not rush its choreography. It simply continues. Each orbit a note in a song that never ends. On Venus, heat is not weather, it is identity. The entire planet is an oven without flame, its air trapped in a constant state of fever. At 465 grados Celsius, 869 grado Fahrenheit. The ground glows faintly with its own infrared light, and even the darkest rocks radiate warmth. This is the runaway greenhouse effect. Our process scientists believe once began with innocence. Billions of years ago, Venus may have had shallow seas, a thin blue sky, and clouds of water vapor. But as the sun brightened, those oceans evaporated, and water vapor, a greenhouse gas, trapped more heat. That warmth boiled even more water, amplifying itself until the planet transformed into a furnace. Now, the air is 96% carbon dioxide, thick enough to trap sunlight completely. Clouds of sulfuric acid reflect much of the sun's light away, yet the heat that enters can never leave. The planet has no escape, no cool night, no relief. It simply holds. To step there would be to walk through history's warning. Every stone is memory, every gust of air, an echo of what once was ocean. And yet in that extreme there is strange peace. The laws of physics are absolute. There is no weather, no uncertainty, only balance at an unbearable level. Venus teaches that equilibrium can exist even in Rhine, a steady, unending warmth that reminds us that energy never disappears. It only changes form. The sleepy scientist's voice becomes slow, deliberate. Even fire can find stillness if it burns long enough. So breathe with her heat. Inhale the memory of sunlight turned to permanence. Exhale the fear of transformation. Venus is not punishment. She is preservation, a memory of what happens when light forgets how to leave. Venus, the word itself, feels soft, like air drawn before a whisper. Yet behind that gentleness lies a universe of fire. How strange that the hottest world in the solar system bears the name of the goddess of love. It is a paradox only the cosmos could write. Beauty born from destruction, affection wrapped in acid and flame. The Romans named her for her brightness, not her kindness. To their eyes, she was the most beautiful wanderer of the heavens, a jewel that defied darkness, a presence impossible to ignore. They believed light itself must belong to love. They could not know that beneath that brilliance lay heat so fierce it would melt stone to sorrow. But perhaps they were not wrong, for love too can burn, and beauty too can wound. Venus glows because she reflects, not because she creates her own light. It is borrowed, softened, transformed, a reflection of the sun, remade through suffering into radiance. In the language of myth, Venus is not contradiction, but completeness. She contains everything: light and darkness, passion and patience, birth and ruin. To name her love is to acknowledge that even the fiercest fire can illuminate as much as it consumes. Astronomers, when they speak her name now, do so with reverence. No planet has taught us more about balance, about limits, about the thin line between warmth and obliteration. Her beauty is not invitation, it is warning wrapped in gold. The sleepy scientist's voice lingers in that idea. Sometimes, the truest forms of love are the ones that keep their distance, shining from afar, so they don't burn what they adore. So breathe with her name, inhale its tenderness, exhale its truth. Let the word Venus rest on your tongue, not as romance, but as reverence, a name that remembers both what warms and what warns. Billions of years ago, before the air turned heavy and the seas boiled dry, Venus may have looked a lot like home. Simulations suggest gentle oceans, a blue sky washed in thin clouds, and continents glowing in sunlight. The two sisters, Earth and Venus, born side by side, spinning under the same sun, nearly the same size, nearly the same heart. But small differences matter. Venus orbited just a little closer, 30% nearer to the sun. That slight proximity made all the difference. More sunlight, a little more evaporation, a little more heat, enough to tip the scales. As water rose into the sky, it became steam, a greenhouse gas that trapped more warmth, setting off the spiral that would never end. Oceans vanished, rocks began releasing carbon dioxide, and the thin blue turned to gold and ash. Somewhere, billions of years ago, Earth could have followed her sister's path, but distance saved us. Our oceans remained. Rain cooled the crust. Plants learned to breathe the air back into balance. Venus became a monument to what might have been, a vision of Earth's future. Had luck turned slightly, scientists sometimes call her the ghost of Earth's tomorrow. But perhaps that's too bleak. Maybe she is Earth's memory instead, a record of warmth before life. Learn to use it wisely. The sleepy scientist's tone softens. There are no villains among the planets, only lessons. So breathe with the balance. Inhale the nearness of what could have been. Exhale gratitude for distance. Every sunrise here, every cool wind, exists because the universe gave us one more step of space. Venus's atmosphere is more than air. It's an instrument. The gases, dense and electric, vibrate under the constant breath of sunlight, turning motion into resonance and resonance into music the human ear cannot hear. If you could convert those vibrations into sound, Venus would hum in deep, slow tones, a planet-sized cello made of heat and gas. The frequency would change as the winds raced and the pressure shifted, a living symphony in sulfur and carbon dioxide. When probes like Venericator's descended through the haze, their microphones captured strange, rhythmic noises. Not static, not machinery, but pulsing waves in the air. Perhaps wind moving across instruments of rock and dust. Perhaps electrical discharges whispering through acid clouds. Whatever it was, it sounded alive. In radio frequencies, Venus sings too. The interaction of solar wind and atmosphere creates a low, rippling hum, a planetary aurora, translated into energy. In those signals, scientists hear the pulse of weather, the slow dance of ions, the echoes of lightning miles deep in golden fog. If the universe had ears, Venus's song would be one of constancy. No rhythm but continuity, no melody but motion, a note that never ends, a vibration that remembers warmth. The sleepy scientist murmurs. Every silence hums if you listen wide enough. So breathe with her frequency. Inhale the soundless song of endurance. Exhale your need for harmony to be heard. Venus's music is not for the ear, it's for the pulse. A heartbeat made of sunlight, carried through acid, flowing through eternity. For centuries, Venus was nothing but a mystery of light, a brilliant orb in the morning and evening sky, so close, so bright, so utterly unknowable. Her thick, reflective clouds hid everything. No telescope could pierce them, no visible light could reveal her surface. To early astronomers, she was perfect and featureless, the very definition of a celestial secret. That changed in the late 20th century, when radar became her translator. Invisible waves, capable of cutting through the mist, bounced off her hidden surface and returned to Earth, carrying whispers of truth. The Magellan spacecraft, launched by NASA in 1989, spent 4 years mapping Venus in exquisite detail, unveiling mountains, volcanoes, plains, and impact scars no human eye had ever seen. Through Radha, the goddess of love revealed her bones. The golden fog was stripped away, and beneath it lay a world of basalt and fire. Vast lava plains stretched for thousands of kilometers. Mountains rose higher than Everest. Canyons, as long as the United States, cut across the planet like the echoes of forgotten rivers. The most haunting part? The surface looked young. Too few craters, too smooth for a world that old. It was as if the planet had wiped her face clean and started again. A geological rebirth in silence. To scientists, it was revelation. To poets, it was poetry made stone. The idea that beneath that constant glow was a landscape of extremes, a world both ancient and new. And yet, Radha revealed something else, of stillness. Unlike Earth, where continents drift and oceans churn, Venus does not move. She shifts only from within, as if her restlessness is private, unseen, but always there. The sleepy scientist speaks softly. Even secrets, once unveiled, keep part of themselves hidden. So breathe with her hidden surface. Inhale the unseen. Exhale the urge to uncover everything. Some mysteries exist, not to be solved, but to remind us that discovery is an act of patience, not conquest. When Radha first touched Venus's mountains, it found something unexpected. They shone. The highlands, especially Maxwell Montes and Fortuna Tercera, reflected Radha's signals far stronger than the plains below. At first, scientists thought it was error, but the shimmer was real. A mirror of metal and mineral high in the Venusian air. What could cause mountains to glisten on a world so devoid of rain or snow? Not water, not ice, but metallic frost. Compounds like tellurium and pyrite may condense in the cooler temperatures of high altitude, settling across the peaks like gilded snowflakes. The result? Mountaintops that sparkle under golden clouds, glinting in wavelengths invisible to the human eye. Imagine that view from above, a landscape glowing softly, each ridge catching sunlight that never truly reaches the ground, the planet's own quiet reflection of beauty, even through acid mist. The highlands gleam, as though the world wears jewelry made of its own breath. This discovery changed how scientists viewed Venus. She was no longer merely molten or hostile. She had delicacy too. In her heat and pressure, she still found ways to create shimmer, to express something like grace. Perhaps that's why she endures in our imagination. Our planet that should terrify, but instead enchants. Even her volcanoes glitter. Even her silence glows. The sleepy scientist's tone lingers with admiration. Even the harshest worlds remember how to shine. So breathe with her mountains. Inhale the image of light surviving pressure. Exhale the belief that beauty needs gentleness to exist. Venus proves that, even in fire, there can be elegance. That even in silence, something still sparkles. Venus moves through space with precision so intricate that her path seems almost choreographed. Every 8 Earth years, she completes 13 orbits around the Sun, creating a near-perfect trethe, contra-ocho ratio, a resonance that draws geometric patterns of astonishing beauty. If you could map the relative motion of Venus and Earth, you'd see a 5-petaled flower, a cosmic rose blooming through time. Each alignment, called an inferior conjunction, occurs when Venus passes between Earth and the Sun. 5 such conjunctions trace the petals before the pattern repeats. It's not coincidence, it's harmony embedded in gravity's mathematics. Ancient astronomers didn't know the physics, but they sensed the poetry. To the Maya, these cycles marked prophecy and rebirth. To the Greeks, they symbolized perfection, the divine geometry of the heavens. Even today, the pattern fascinates artists and scientists alike, a reminder that nature is not random, but resonant. The most astonishing part? Over thousands of years, the pattern barely shifts. It's as if Venus and Earth keep perfect rhythm, a duet written before memory began. To stand under her light at dawn is to feel that rhythm in your pulse. Our planet and hers are not merely neighbors. They are partners in motion, their orbits entwined like melody and harmony. The sleepy scientist's voice hums softly like distant strings. Every orbit is a note in a song that never ends. So breathe with the rhythm of her motion. Inhale the invisible pattern. Exhale your need to control it. Venus does not chase perfection. She simply repeats beauty until it becomes truth. Every sunrise you've ever seen, every pale morning that shimmered just before the sun rose, was painted, in part, by Venus. Her glow, that bright, steady star low on the horizon, has followed Earth for as long as we've looked up. Before the first words, before the first myths, she was already there, the morning star, silent and loyal, marking the moment the world turned from sleep to light. Venus's light doesn't fade quickly, even when the sun climbs. She lingers in the blue, a white gem that refuses to disappear. At dusk, she returns again, the evening star, hovering where the day exhales into darkness. Every appearance is both arrival and farewell. A rhythm older than the oceans, older than breath. Her orbit ensures that she is always close to the sun, never straying more than 48 degrees from it. And so, she exists in transition, never fully night, never fully day. She belongs to the threshold, to the moment between things. And that is why we find her comforting, because we, too, are creatures of transition, always becoming, never complete. When she rises before dawn, she heralds renewal. When she sinks after sunset, she carries closure. In every culture, this duality has meant rebirth. From Inanna's descent into shadow to Lucifer's fall from heaven, whose name once meant light bearer. Venus has always been the symbol of returning light. Astronomers measure her brightness at magnitude, 4.6, bright enough to cast shadows in still air. Poets, however, measure her in feeling, the hush before dawn, the sigh before night. Her glow has watched every age of humanity, every wandering tribe, every city's first spark of fire. She is the witness of continuity. The sleepy scientist's tone is like the faint edge of sunrise. She does not rise or fall. She simply turns with us, reminding us that beginnings are circular. So breathe with her light. Inhale the hush before dawn. Exhale the weight of endings. Venus never leaves. She only changes her angle. the way light changes shape when it loves a horizon. Venus is more than a jewel of the sky. She is a counterweight, a stabilizer in the vast architecture of the solar system. Her gravity, though modest compared to giants like Jupiter, exerts a quiet influence on the orbits of her neighbors, especially Earth. Without Venus, our planet's orbit might drift more wildly over time. Climate patterns could fluctuate faster, and axial tilt might wander more freely. Venus's steady pull helps keep Earth's path smooth, a silent guardian that balances chaos through grace. Computer models reveal that if Venus did not exist, Earth's eccentricity, the ovalness of its orbit, would grow, pulling us closer to and farther from the sun in erratic cycles. Her presence tempers that motion, softening our seasons, holding our rhythm steady. Its poetic symmetry, a world that burned herself away, still protects the one that cooled. She stands as a lesson in cosmic generosity, beauty turned burden, burden turned balance. Even her interactions with other planets ripple outward. Her gravitational resonance with Mercury prevents that tiny world from tumbling into chaotic spin. Her presence shapes the inner solar system, like a steady note that keeps the others in tune. We often think of Venus as tragedy, a paradise lost, but in truth, she is structure. Her existence is one of the reasons Earth thrives. She is the quiet reason the sun doesn't scorch us, the invisible hand guiding stability. The sleepy scientist's voice grows soft, nearly prayer-like. Even a planet consumed by fire can hold the balance for worlds of water. So breathe with her gravity. Inhale the unseen support that steadies everything. Exhale your need to shine, to be useful. Sometimes, the greatest influence is the one that works quietly, unseen, but essential. Venus is both caution and comfort, both ruin and rhythm, a world that burned too close to the sun, yet still shelters us from afar. She is not just the goddess of love. She is the reminder that even what is lost can still give. Listen, the golden hum of Venus is fading now, not gone, just softer, folding itself back into the quiet fabric of night. The planet still turns, slow as thought, steady as breath, our luminous ember adrift between the sun and memory. If you close your eyes, you can almost feel her warmth, not burning, not distant, but tender, like the ghost of sunlight that lingers behind the eyelids. That warmth is older than oceans, older than the words we use to name it. It's the same warmth that once cradled both Venus and Earth, the same fire that taught light how to stay. We have wandered through her clouds and silence, through her volcanic plains and glittering peaks, through her storming skies and patient geometry. We have felt her gravity, the invisible kindness that steadies the Earth's orbit. And somewhere in that stillness, you may have realized, Venus is not far away. She's simply the mirror of every fire that ever wanted to love without destroying. Her story is not tragedy, it's transformation. Once, she may have been a blue world, alive with seas and wind and possibility. Now, she is golden and fierce, a keeper of lessons rather than life. She reminds us that beauty can survive heat, that silence can carry memory, and that reflection is its own form of creation. The atmosphere glows endlessly above her, sulfuric, heavy, luminous. Yet, even there might still be dreamers, tiny, unseen, drifting like thoughts through warmth and acid. If they exist, they are not alone. They are the continuation of the universe's oldest promise, that life, in some form, always finds a way to whisper. The winds above her clouds still move, fast enough to circle the planet in 4 days, a perpetual motion of balance and breath. They are the slow heartbeat of a world that never needed calm to know peace. Even fire, when it burns long enough, becomes rhythm, and the light she reflects, that brilliant silver glow we call the morning star, continues to visit our skies every dawn, every dusk, like a message sent across time. Remember that even endings are beginnings viewed from another side. When you see her next, perhaps tomorrow, hanging low over the horizon like a drop of molten pearl, you might remember this journey. You might think of her mountains that shine like metal snow, her air so heavy it bends light into silence, her hidden valleys, breathing warmth through stone. You might feel small, but not insignificant, because you, too, are made of light that once passed through those same clouds, long ago, before Earth even had a name. And as the stars begin their slow, endless dance, you can let your thoughts drift with them, fading gently into the quiet of sleep. The sleepy scientist's voice returns one last time, soft as starlight through fog. Rest now. The sun is still burning, the planet's still turning, and somewhere, above the golden veil of Venus, the universe is humming your name. Let the hum carry you. Let the warmth of her story settle into the rhythm of your breathing. The world, you know this one, blue and fragile, exists because another chose to glow too bright. There is gratitude in that balance. There is peace in remembrance. And now, as your heartbeat slows to the pace of orbit and dust, let everything drift outward, the noise, the thought, the self, until all that remains is this, the soft pulse of light, the eternal motion of stillness, the quiet truth that everything, even love, even loss, finds its way back to calm. And as the cosmos exhales, Venus turns again, golden, patient, beautiful, not as goddess, not as warning, but as lullaby. And as her glow fades behind the horizon, you can let your own light rest too, folding into dream, where dawn is always waiting.